Joachim stared at her bank account with a sinking feeling. The money she had saved for months, planning every detail of her dream beach vacation, was now gone. Her younger brother had needed emergency surgery, and without thinking twice, she had emptied her savings to help him. She didn't regret it, but as she closed her laptop that evening, disappointment washed over her. All that overtime for nothing, she whispered to herself, looking at the swimsuit she had bought on sale months. Theo tags still attached. The next day at work, Gia couldn't focus. Between marketing meetings and client calls, she kept thinking about the coastal resort, where she had planned to spend a blissful week. During her lunch break, she found herself scrolling through pictures of the resort's infinity pool overlooking the ocean. "Still planning that trip?" her co-worker asked, peering over her shoulder. "Not anymore," Gia sighed. "Family emergency took all my savings." Her co-worker leaned closer. "You know, my cousin works at a hotel chain. He told me something interesting about how their booking system works." Gia raised an eyebrow, suddenly curious. That evening, Gia couldn't stop thinking about what her co-worker had shared. Apparently, luxury resorts often had rooms that remained empty, despite being listed as booked in their systems. Something about tax write-offs and occupancy rates. More importantly, her co-worker explained that with the right approach during check-in, especially during busy periods, someone confident enough could potentially access these rooms without payment. "It's not exactly stealing," her co-worker had said. "These rooms would stay empty anyway." Gia spent the next week researching this idea online. She found scattered accounts of people who claimed to have done similar things, usually by pretending there was a mix-up with their reservation. The key, according to these stories, was confidence and timing. The idea made Gia uncomfortable. She had always followed rules, paid her taxes, never shoplifted, even returned extra change when cashiers made mistakes. But something about this felt different. The rooms would just sit empty otherwise. No one would actually lose money. She looked at her calendar. Her vacation time was already approved, her brother was recovering well, and the coastal resort was just a 4-hour drive away. "I could at least try," she thought, heart beating faster. What's the worst that could happen? She didn't tell anyone about her plan, not her brother, not her parents, not even her best friend. She just packed her suitcase as if going on the vacation she had originally planned. She put her nicest clothes in her bag, including a designer dress her friend had lent her for a wedding last year. She practiced what she would say in front of her bathroom mirror, making sure her voice sounded natural and confident. "There seems to be a mix-up with my reservation," she rehearsed, trying to sound slightly confused but not worried. "I confirmed it last week." The night before her trip, Gia could barely sleep. Part of her wanted to call the whole thing off. This wasn't like her. What if she got caught? What if they called the police? But another part of her felt strangely excited, the same feeling she got before presenting a big campaign to clients at work. As she drove toward the coast, the next morning, windows down and music playing, Gia felt a strange mix of fear and freedom. The ocean came into view, sparkling under the sun, and she took a deep breath. "Just act like you belong," she told herself, as she pulled into the resort's circular driveway. "Just act like you belong." Looking at the grand entrance of the resort, with bellhops helping guests with designer luggage and water fountains, creating a peaceful atmosphere, Gia almost turned around. But then she thought about all the extra hours she had worked, all the small luxuries she had given up to save for this trip, and how it had all disappeared overnight for reasons beyond her control. She adjusted her sunglasses, checked her reflection in the rearview mirror, and stepped out of her car with the confidence of someone who had paid the full $500 per night for a luxury suite. The first step of her bold plan was about to begin, and there was no turning back now. Gia handed her car keys to the valet and walked through the grand glass doors of the resort. Inside, the lobby buzzed with activity. Families with children, business people on phones and couples holding hands, all waited in a long line at the reception desk. Perfect timing, just as she had hoped. The clock on the wall showed 3:15 p.m., right when most guests would be checking in. She joined the line, watching how the staff handled each guest. Some workers looked tired, moving quickly to process the growing crowd. Gia noticed one front desk manager, a woman with a neat bun and a name tag that read Sue, who seemed to handle complicated situations. Whenever another staff member looked confused, they called Sue over. She's the one, Gia thought. She has the authority to help me. While waiting, Gia straightened the collar on her borrowed blazer. Her friend had lent her an entire outfit for a job interview, not knowing Gia's real plan. The clothes felt strange on her, too formal for vacation but perfect for looking like someone who belonged in a luxury resort. 20 minutes later, it was finally her turn. A young man motioned her forward, but Gia politely waited until Sue was free. When Sue called "Next guest, please," Gia stepped up with a warm smile. "Good afternoon," Gia said, placing her ID and credit card on the counter. "I'm checking in for a week's stay." Sue returned the smile and typed on her computer. "Name, please." "Kim, Gia Kim." The typing continued. Then Sue frowned slightly. "I'm sorry, I don't see a reservation under that name." Gia had practiced this moment dozens of times. Instead of panicking, she looked surprised but not worried. "That's odd. I confirmed just last week. I have the confirmation email somewhere." She dug through her purse, pretending to search for something she knew wasn't there. "When did you make the reservation?" Sue asked, still typing. "About 2 months ago. It was under the summer special rate," Gia said, remembering details from the resort's website. The Ocean View suite with the breakfast package. Sue looked slightly overwhelmed as 3 phones started ringing at once. Another staff member called her name, needing help with an angry guest. "Just 1 moment, please," Sue said to Gia. "Let me check something else." While Sue was distracted, talking to her colleague, Gia glanced around the lobby. A tour group had just arrived, adding to the chaos. The timing couldn't have been better. When Sue returned, Gia leaned in slightly. "You know, this happened to my cousin last year at your sister property in the mountains. The reservation didn't show up, but they found it later. Something about the system not syncing properly with third-party bookings." Sue nodded. "That does happen sometimes, especially during peak season." "I completely understand how busy you are," Gia continued, her voice sympathetic. "I work in customer service too. I know how systems can fail when you need them most." This small connection seemed to work. Sue's shoulders relaxed slightly. "The thing is," Gia added, "I drove 4 hours to get here, and I'm attending an important event at the marina tomorrow. Is there any way you could accommodate me while this gets sorted out? I'd be so grateful." Sue looked at her screen again. "We are nearly at full capacity, but—" She typed something else. "We do have 1 premium suite that's listed as under maintenance, but it was actually cleared yesterday. It's not in the system yet for booking." "That would be perfect," Gia said, trying not to sound too eager. "I really appreciate you going the extra mile. I'm happy to move rooms later if needed once my original booking is found." Sue made a few more keystrokes, then reached for a key card. "I'll place you in Suite 712 for now. It's one of our Ocean View premium suites. I've noted in the system that we're looking into your original reservation. In the meantime, please enjoy all our amenities." Gia felt a surge of adrenaline but kept her expression casual. "Thank you so much for your help. I really appreciate it. Of course, if we find your original booking was at a different rate, we'll need to adjust the charges at the end of your stay. Is that all right?" "Absolutely," Gia said, knowing that finding her non-existent reservation would be unlikely in the chaos of high season. Sue handed over the key card and a resort map. "The elevators are to your right. Your room includes access to our premium breakfast buffet, the spa facilities, and evening cocktail hour at the rooftop bar." Gia thanked her again and walked toward the elevators, her heart pounding. She kept expecting someone to call after her to say there had been a mistake, but no one did. Inside the elevator, when the doors closed, she finally let out the breath she'd been holding. She couldn't believe it had worked. The key card in her hand felt both thrilling and terrifying. When she opened the door to Suite 712, Gia gasped. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed the ocean stretching to the horizon. A king-sized bed faced the view, and a bottle of welcome champagne sat chilling in an ice bucket. She set down her bag and walked to the window, watching waves crash against the shore below. The room normally cost more than she made in a week, and somehow it was hers, at least for now. Gia picked up the room service menu from the desk and smiled. Phase 2 of her plan had worked perfectly. Now she just had to act like she belonged here for the next few days without getting caught. On her first morning, Gia woke up to sunlight streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows of her suite. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then, it all came rushing back. The plan, the check-in, the lie. She sat up quickly, half expecting hotel security to be knocking at her door. But the only sound was the gentle crash of waves outside. She slid out of bed and walked to the window. The ocean stretched endlessly before her, glittering under the morning sun. A family of dolphins leaped through the waves in the distance. Gia pressed her hand against the glass, feeling both guilty and amazed at the same time. "Just enjoy it," she whispered to herself. "You deserve this." After a long shower in the marble bathroom with its rainfall showerhead and luxurious toiletries, Gia dressed in her nicest sundress and headed down to breakfast. The restaurant overlooked the infinity pool which seemed to merge with the ocean beyond. A hostess greeted her with a warm smile. "Room number 712, Gia replied, her voice more confident than she felt. The hostess checked her tablet. One of our premium suites. Please follow me to the VIP section." Gia was led to a secluded area with just 5 tables, each offering perfect views. A waiter immediately appeared with fresh juice and coffee. "Would you like to order from the menu, or would you prefer our chef's special breakfast?" Gia had never been asked such a question before. "The chef's special sounds wonderful," she replied, trying to sound like this was normal for her. While waiting for her food, she glanced around at the other guests in the VIP section. A famous actor sat at one table with his family. At another, an older couple spoke quietly in a language she didn't recognize. No one paid her any attention. They all assumed she belonged. The breakfast arrived on a wooden tray, tiny jars of exotic jams, freshly baked pastries, eggs with truffle shavings, and fruits she couldn't name. Gia took a picture with her phone before taking her first bite. The flavors exploded in her mouth, unlike anything she'd tasted before. After breakfast, Gia spent the morning by the infinity pool. An attendant set up her lounger with plush towels and brought her a cooling face mist and cucumber water without being asked. She dozed in the sun, occasionally opening her eyes to watch children playing in the water. Around noon, another guest, a EI woman about her age, settled into the lounger next to hers. "First time here?" the woman asked. Gia's heart skipped a beat. "Yes, is it that obvious?" The woman laughed. "Only because you look as amazed as I was my first time. I'm Mina." "Gia. Nice to meet you. My husband and I come every summer. It's ridiculously expensive, but worth it," Mina said. "How did you find this place?" Here it was, the question Gia had been dreading. "Oh, I got a special promotional rate," she said vaguely. "End of season deal. Lucky you, we paid full price like suckers," Mina laughed. "Hey, are you going to the Sunset Yacht Cruise tonight? It's exclusive for hotel guests." Gia hadn't known about any cruise. "I haven't decided yet." "You should come. They serve amazing food and drinks, all included." That evening, Gia found herself on the resort's private yacht, sipping champagne as the sun melted into the horizon. The staff knew her room number and welcomed her aboard without question. She stood at the railing, watching the resort grow smaller as they sailed away from shore. The wind played with her hair, and for the first time in months, she felt truly free. Days began to blend together in the most wonderful way. Each morning, Gia tried something new. She took a private yoga class on the beach at dawn. She learned paddleboarding from an instructor who used to compete professionally. She had her first ever facial at the spa, where the esthetician told her she had remarkable skin and recommended products that cost more than her monthly rent. In the afternoons, she explored the resort's hidden corners, a small library with leather-bound books, a garden filled with butterflies, a quiet cove where turtles came to sun themselves on rocks. She signed up for cooking classes, wine tastings, and even a dance lesson. Each time, she simply provided her room number, and doors opened. Evenings were the most magical. Gia dined at different restaurants within the resort each night, always requesting a table with a view. She ordered dishes she couldn't pronounce and wines she'd never heard of. When the bill came, she signed her room number with a flourish, adding generous tips for the staff who treated her like royalty. After dinner on her 4th night, she sat at the rooftop bar, watching stars appear over the ocean. She pulled out her phone and scrolled through the photos she'd posted over the past few days. The comments and likes had piled up. Friends from home, co-workers, even her old college roommate all asking how she could afford such luxury. She had simply responded with a winky face emoji and, "Life's too short not to treat yourself." A small part of her felt bad about the deception, not just to the hotel, but to everyone back home who thought she was living a life she couldn't actually afford. But a bigger part of her felt like she was finally getting something she deserved after years of hard work and sacrifice. On the morning of the 5th day, Gia ordered room service for the first time, waffles with fresh berries, and whipped cream, crispy bacon, and a pot of coffee. She ate on her balcony, watching seagulls dive into the water below. Tomorrow was her last day before checkout, and she wanted to savor every moment. Her phone buzzed with a text from her brother. "How's the fancy vacation? Send more pics." Gia smiled and took a perfect shot of her breakfast with the ocean in the background. She knew this couldn't last forever. But for now, just for these few perfect days, she was living a dream she'd never thought possible. And no matter what happened next, no one could take these memories away from her. Gia woke up on her 6th day, feeling strangely peaceful. She had already decided this would be her last day at the resort. Though her plan had worked perfectly so far, she knew pushing her luck any further would be foolish. After breakfast, she would pack up, leave her keycard in the room and simply walk out through a side entrance she had discovered during her explorations. She ordered her final room service breakfast, the same waffles she had fallen in love with, and ate slowly on the balcony, trying to memorize every detail of the view. The ocean was particularly blue today, with white-capped waves rolling gently toward the shore. She took one last selfie with the view and posted it with the caption, "Last day in paradise." After showering and packing her belongings, Gia took a final look around the beautiful suite that had been her home for nearly a week. She placed the key card on the desk, took a deep breath, and opened the door to leave. A man in a crisp suit stood in the hallway, hand raised as if about to knock. His name tag read Tay Park General Manager. "Miss Kim?" he asked, his expression serious but not unkind. Gia's heart sank to her stomach. "Yes?" "I was hoping to speak with you. Would you mind coming with me to my office?" There was no point in running. Gia nodded, trying to keep her face calm despite the panic rising in her chest. She followed Tay down the hallway to the elevator. Neither spoke as they descended to the main floor and walked through a door marked Staff Only. Tay's office was smaller than she expected, but elegantly furnished with a view of the resort's Japanese garden. He gestured for her to sit in one of the chairs facing his desk. "Ms. Kim, I've been reviewing our system records this morning. It seems there's been some confusion regarding your stay with us." Gia said nothing, her mind racing for a way out of this situation. Tay continued, his voice professionally even. "According to our records, you checked in 6 days ago claiming to have a reservation that wasn't in our system. Our front desk manager, Sue, accommodated you in one of our premium suites while the supposed error was being investigated." He opened a folder on his desk. "Since then, you've enjoyed our amenities to the fullest: spa services, exclusive activities, daily meals at our restaurants. The total charges to your room come to just over $3,000. Gia's mouth went dry. She hadn't realized it would add up to that much. "The interesting thing," Tay said, leaning forward slightly, "is that after a thorough search of our booking history, we found no record of any reservation under your name. Not just for these dates. Ever." Gia swallowed hard. "There must be some mistake. I definitely made a reservation," she said, knowing her voice sounded hollow even to her own ears. Tay's expression remained neutral. "Ms. Kim, I've been in hotel management for 15 years. This isn't the first time I've seen this particular situation." "What situation?" Gia asked, though she already knew the answer. A guest gaining access to accommodations through deception. He closed the folder. "Our regular security protocols should have caught this, but we've been unusually busy with a celebrity wedding this week." A tense silence filled the room. Through the window, Gia could see gardeners carefully raking patterns into sand around stone sculptures. "I was planning to pay," Gia said finally. It wasn't entirely a lie. She had considered leaving some cash, though nowhere near the full amount. "With what means?" Tay asked. "We ran the credit card you provided at check-in. It has a limit of $500, which wouldn't cover even half your current bill." Gia looked down at her hands. There was nothing left to say. Tay sighed. "I've asked security to meet us in the lobby. We'll need to go through your belongings to ensure no resort property is being removed." "Are you calling the police?" Gia asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "That depends on several factors," Tay replied, "including your cooperation from this point forward." The walk to the lobby felt like a death march. Guests turned to stare as Gia followed Tay, with 2 security officers joining them near the reception desk. Her face burned with shame as they moved toward a small room off the main lobby. Inside, a female security officer asked Gia to open her suitcase and went through it carefully, item by item. Finding nothing stolen, she nodded to Tay. "Ms. Kim." Tay said, "What you've done constitutes fraud. You've obtained services worth thousands of dollars through deceptive means. Legally, we would be well within our rights to press charges." Gia felt tears forming in her eyes. "I understand," she whispered. However, Tay continued, "pressing charges would require police reports, court appearances, and significant time. For our staff, it would also generate negative publicity for our resort." A small flicker of hope ignited in Gia's chest. "Instead, I'm proposing an alternative solution. You will pay $1,000, roughly 1/3 of what you owe today, using the credit card you provided. You will also be banned from this resort and all properties within our international chain permanently." Gia nodded quickly. "Yes, I can do that. Additionally, you'll need to sign a document acknowledging what happened here and agreeing never to discuss this incident publicly. If we discover you've shared this experience online or elsewhere as some kind of travel hack, we will pursue legal action." "I understand. I won't tell anyone." Tay studied her face for a long moment. "May I ask why? You don't seem like someone who typically engages in this sort of behavior." The question caught Gia off guard. She hadn't expected him to care about her. "Reasons. I saved for months for this vacation," she said quietly. "Then my brother needed emergency surgery, and I gave him all my savings. I still had the time off approved at work, and I just wanted something nice for myself, just once." Tay's expression softened slightly. "Next time, perhaps consider a vacation within your means. There are many beautiful places that don't require deception to enjoy." After signing the papers and processing her payment, Gia was escorted to her car by security. As she placed her suitcase in the trunk, she noticed Mina, the woman she'd met by the pool, watching from across the parking lot. Confusion and disappointment clear on her face, Gia got into her car quickly, wanting nothing more than to escape. As she drove down the long driveway away from the resort, mixed emotions swirled within her. Relief that she wasn't facing criminal charges, shame at being caught, pride at having pulled it off for as long as she did, and underneath it all a lingering question: had it been worth it? The grand entrance of the resort disappeared in her rearview mirror. Ahead, the regular world waited, her small apartment, her marketing job, her normal life. But she was returning with memories of luxury she'd never forget, and consequences she couldn't escape. 2 weeks after returning to her normal life, Gia still couldn't stop thinking about her experience at the resort. She had told no one the full truth, not her brother, not her friends, not even her diary. To everyone who asked about her vacation photos, she simply said she had gotten an amazing last-minute deal. Late one night, unable to sleep, Gia opened her laptop and found herself browsing a popular travel forum. People shared tips there about everything from avoiding tourist traps to finding cheap flights. Without really planning to, she created an anonymous account and began typing. "How I stayed at a 5-star resort for nearly free, a controversial travel hack." She described everything: the planning, the careful timing of her arrival, how she had convinced the front desk staff there was a mix-up. She explained how she had access to all the amenities without question, just by providing her room number. She detailed being caught on the final day and the arrangement she had made with the manager. She ended the post with, I'm not saying anyone should do this, but it worked for me. Has anyone else tried something similar? After hitting submit, Gia closed her laptop and finally fell asleep. The next morning, she had nearly forgotten about the post until she checked her email and found dozens of notifications from the forum. Her post had received hundreds of comments overnight. By lunchtime, it had thousands. Someone had shared it on other social media platforms, and it was spreading like wildfire. Gia read through the comments with growing amazement. People were fiercely divided about her actions. "This is straight-up theft," one person wrote. "You stole services worth thousands of dollars. That's not a hack, it's a crime." "Brilliant," countered another. "These luxury resorts make billions while underpaying their staff. They won't miss. The money in those rooms would have stayed empty anyway. My cousin works at a hotel, and people like you are the reason they have to work overtime without extra pay to fix these mistakes," argued someone else. "Can you share which resort chain asking for a friend?" joked another commenter. By the end of the week, the post had been viewed over 1 million times. Travel bloggers had made videos discussing the ethics of what they now called the resort scam. A popular morning show had debated it during their consumer segment. A hospitality industry magazine had published an article warning hotels about this exact technique, prompting many chains to announce they were reviewing their check-in procedures. Gia watched it all unfold with a mixture of pride and horror. Her anonymous post had sparked a national conversation. Though no one knew it was her, she felt strangely powerful and increasingly uncomfortable. Then, one evening, as she scrolled through yet more comments, she came across a post that stopped. Her cold. "I work as a housekeeper at a luxury resort. When guests hack their way into rooms like this, guess who gets blamed when the accounting doesn't match up? Us. We lose hours, we lose tips, and sometimes we even lose our jobs. Your free vacation might cost someone their rent money." Gia had never considered this perspective. She had imagined her actions as victimless, taking from a wealthy corporation. That wouldn't miss the money. But real people might have been affected by what she did. The next comment made her feel even worse. "My mother cleaned rooms at a resort for 20 years. She has permanent back problems from changing sheets on those huge beds, and she never once called in sick because she couldn't afford to lose the pay. Think about her next time you steal services she worked hard to provide." Gia closed her laptop, feeling sick to her stomach. The excitement of getting away with something clever had fully faded, replaced by a growing sense of shame. The following day, after a mostly sleepless night, Gia made a decision. She couldn't undo what she had done, and she couldn't reveal her identity without facing serious consequences. But she could try to make amends in another way. She researched and found a non-profit organization called Hospitality Workers Relief Fund, which provided emergency assistance to hotel employees facing financial hardship. That afternoon, she set up a monthly donation of $500, an amount that would let her pay back the full $3,000 over 6 months. It wasn't perfect, but it was something, and it made her feel a little less like the villain many commenters had made her out to be. As months passed, the viral debate slowly died down, but its impact on Gia remained. She found herself thinking differently about many things: the true cost of luxury, the people behind services, the line between cleverness and dishonesty. 1 year after her infamous resort stay, Gia received a promotion at work. With her increased salary, she planned another vacation. This time to a small family-owned beach cottage that cost exactly what she could afford. She booked it properly, paid in full in advance, and even added a tip for the cleaning staff before she arrived. The cottage had no infinity pool, no room service, no exclusive yacht cruises. But watching the sunset from her modest porch, Gia felt a peace that had eluded her at the luxury resort. On her last night there, she left an envelope with extra cash and a note that read, "Thank you for your hard work." As she placed it on the table, she thought about how different this felt from sneaking out of the resort a year ago. That night, she opened her anonymous forum account one last time. The debate still raged on her original post, which had now been viewed by over 3 million people. She added a final comment. "Original poster here. A year later, I need to say I was wrong. What I did wasn't clever. It was theft with real victims. I've since paid back more than what I took, donating to help the kinds of workers I hurt. The best luxury isn't what you get for free. It's being able to look at yourself in the mirror without shame. Find vacations you can honestly afford. They're worth more in the end. She deleted the account immediately after posting, but her words remained. A small correction in a conversation that had taken on a life of its own. Somewhere in that massive online debate were people who had been influenced to try what she had done, and others who had been inspired to stop it from happening again. Gia couldn't control any of that now. All she could do was move forward, wiser for the experience, and committed to a different path, one where shortcuts didn't come at someone else's expense.